All right, let's dive into the work of Erich Fromm, a psychologist and philosopher who took one long, hard look at our modern world and diagnosed a pretty profound sickness hiding right under our noses.
Fromm kicks things off with this incredibly provocative idea. He says, look around. We're living in a society filled with unhappy people. But here's the catch. Admitting it is like social suicide. In a world where your value is constantly being judged, being unhappy is seen as a personal failure. So what do we all do? We put on a mask.
So that's a pretty big claim, right? Why did he think we were all just pretending? And what's really going on behind that mask of contentment? Well, to understand the diagnosis, you first have to understand the guy doing the diagnosis. Erich Fromm's entire life was basically this relentless quest to figure out human suffering. And for him, that quest started with his own childhood. So he was born in 1900, and he described himself as this lonely, only child of, his words, very neurotic parents. He was caught between two completely different worlds, the ancient spiritual traditions of his Orthodox Jewish family and the modern commercial world of early 20th century Germany. That tension, plus later having to flee the Nazis, really lit a fire under him to understand what makes people tick and what makes them fall apart. At first, Fromm thought he had found the answer in the work of Sigmund Freud. He jumped in with both feet, becoming a strict Freudian psychoanalyst. But pretty soon he started to feel like Freud's diagnosis, well, it just wasn't the whole story. And you know, what's really fascinating is why he started to doubt it. He said he just got bored. He felt like he was just checking off boxes. Finding the Oedipus complex here, a little castration anxiety there, exactly where the textbook said he would. He realized he was missing a real, living relationship with the people he was treating. He was analyzing theories, not actual human beings. And this right here, this slide, perfectly shows you that huge shift in his thinking, where Freud was always looking inward at our repressed drives, our family drama, our past. Fromm started looking outward. He had this breakthrough moment where he thought, wait a minute, what if the root of all this unhappiness isn't just something broken inside our heads? What if the problem is the society we're forced to live in?
And that realization led him to his central diagnosis. Fromm argued that modern society has this deep-seated pathology, an obsession with what he called the mode of having, that completely overshadows the mode of being.
So what is the having mode? It's basically when your identity is completely wrapped up in what you own and what you buy. I am what I have. Life just becomes this frantic race to get more money, more status, more stuff. This, he said, is the engine of industrial capitalism. It's a world built on profit and competition, and in that world, people end up becoming alienated, basically just tools for the economy. But there's an alternative, the being mode. Here, your identity comes from your experiences, from what you do and feel. The goal isn't to possess things, it's to live fully, to share, to create, to be present. This, for Fromm, was the only path to a truly healthy, genuinely human life, one that values things like love and connection. So where did Fromm get the idea for this powerful critique? Well, he found the blueprint in the work of a thinker that I think most of us totally misunderstand. Fromm looked at Karl Marx, and he saw something completely different. He didn't see some economist obsessed with money and class warfare. Nope, he saw a humanist, almost a prophet. He believed the real driving force behind Marx's work was this deep, almost religious passion to free people from suffering. And here's the key takeaway from that. Fromm argued that Marx was the ultimate critic of that having mode we just talked about. His goal wasn't just to give everyone more stuff, a bourgeois life for all. Not at all. His goal was to build a society where the full development of a human being was the ultimate point, not just a way to make more money. It was all about creating a world designed for being. So once the diagnosis was clear, Fromm naturally turned to the prognosis. What's going to happen if our society stays this sick? And is there any chance for a cure? Fromm was way ahead of his time on this. He was looking at early research from groups like the Club of Rome, and he warned that a society built on endless growth and consumption was basically on a collision course with reality. He saw it would inevitably lead to ecological disasters, fighting over resources, and war. Now get this. An interviewer asked him to put a number on it. What's the probability that humanity actually gets its act together and avoids this catastrophe? His answer was just chilling. He said the chance was 1 to 2%.
But right after he gives that incredibly bleak number, he makes this powerful point. He says, look, if we're talking about money, a 2% chance of success is a terrible investment. You'd walk away. But when you're talking about a human life, it's a completely different game. If a patient has only a 2% chance of survival, doctors will move heaven and earth to save them. And that was his point. Because the survival of all of us is at stake, we have to fight for that tiny chance with everything we've got.
Okay, but if the danger is so obvious and the stakes are so high, what's stopping us from acting? Well, Fromm identified one final, really crucial psychological roadblock. He called it collective repression. And the idea is pretty simple. Just like you or I might repress a traumatic memory, Fromm believed an entire society can push away a truth that's just too painful or too inconvenient to deal with. We have the facts, we can see the warning signs, but we collectively make a choice not to know what we absolutely could know. And he gave this just harrowing example from his own life. Fromm argued that many ordinary Germans could honestly say they didn't know the full horror of what the Nazis were doing. And why? Because the reality was so monstrous that they collectively repressed the signs. They chose not to see what was right there to be seen. And he believed it was this massive, collective act of looking away that allowed the horror to happen. And that leaves us with Fromm's final, urgent question, a challenge that is just as powerful today as it was then. If a society's greatest sickness is its ability to ignore the truth that's right in front of its eyes, what vital truths are we choosing not to see right now?